Good evening from Singapore and hello to all our friends tuning in from all around the world. Thank you and welcome to today's session on precision healthcare for the population. My name is Wei Min from SGInnovate and we are a government-backed deep tech investor and company builder whose mission is to help entrepreneurial scientists build deep tech startups that are looking to solve big global problems. Our work also involves building a global community of leaders, thinkers, and doers to drive and scale up deep tech innovations in areas such as AI, healthcare, quantum tech, and autonomous technology across various industries. We are happy to present today's webinar where we explore a little more about precision health and what it means to the population. This is especially relevant in this digital age where big data is constantly being used to obtain insights in improving many aspects of our lives. But how exactly are these data being used in the healthcare sector and what factors actually contributes to it? Let's find out with our speakers today. Perhaps some guiding points for our audience as well. We encourage for all attendees to share with us your thoughts on the topic or interact with our speakers by posting your questions in the Q&A tab located at the bottom panel of your screen. Otherwise, feel free to just say hi and do a quick shout out from where you are in the chat box below. With no further ado, please allow me to pass the time to Jasmine Chiu, Assistant Director, Health and Biomedical Sciences at SGInnovate to kickstart the session. Jasmine, please.
Thank you, Wei Ming. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. It is my great pleasure to moderate today's session. Me, myself, being a trained medical doctor, precision medicine is a topic very close to my heart. So as Wei Ming just set the tone, for today's discussion, we would like to achieve a couple of objectives. One is to get insights from our distinguished panelists to help us to understand that what precision health actually means for the public population and how that will allow our audience to relate the daily behavior activities and also the environmental influence can possibly contribute to the precision healthcare data and ultimately develop the precision medicine solution. And another objective we would like to achieve is to share the idea that how can the ecosystem, the stakeholders, come together and contribute to bring the innovative practice to precision health. So now, without further ado, I would like to invite our panelists to introduce themselves. Prof. John, please.
Hi, thanks, Jasmine. So my name is John Chambers. I am I'm a clinician by background. I trained as a cardiologist, but have moved progressively towards into research, and in particular research that we hope will help improve precision in practice to improve health outcomes. And my research is to date largely focused around the genetic and molecular characteristics that define disease, health and disease trajectories. And that has culminated in me setting up, coordinating large-scale population studies to try to unravel causal mechanisms in disease. And based upon that, I've helped advance the precision medicine program here in Singapore, and now am the Chief Scientific Officer for the National Precision Medicine Program.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. John. Prof. Anke, please.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to the panel. My name is Ankur Teredesai. I'm a tenured professor at the University of Washington. Over the last 2 decades, I've been blessed to work with various health systems across the world. I'm a computer scientist by background, but I got very interested in applying the lessons I learned in developing artificial intelligence and machine learning models to create an impact on healthcare about 2 decades ago. And since then, I started building predictive models for various disease conditions, from congestive heart failure to COPD to diabetes and pre-diabetes. And as I started building those models, I realized that more and more and more of healthcare is getting delivered outside the hospital. So these days, I'm quite focused on preventative precision medicine in particular.
Great, thank you. So now, without further ado, let's dive in the today's panel discussion. So I think the first question is the burning question for everyone in the audience. So what is the next for the general population, right? Particularly for the program, the National Precision Medicine Program. How can we be part of the program, and what can we looking forward to? So who would like to start to take the first question?
Why don't I take a first pick for that? Jasmine, can you qualify, when you say what does it mean for people? Are you talking about the man in the street? Or are you talking about people in industry?
Yeah.
Community.
Yes. Not just limit to the for example, the current, I think the current medicine regime is still more reactive, right? Yeah, how can we make this the precision medicine regime become more proactive and involve the people that now still healthy, but prevent them to move into a disease stage? Yeah.
Okay, so it's a great question, and I think it's important to say we're still at the beginning of the journey. The first thing we need to do is to develop the models that help us understand who does and does not benefit from treatments and interventions. At the moment, as you say, we're stuck in a system that is predominantly driven by the one-size-fits-all kind of approach. You know, we start people on the same drug and the same dose, irrespective of their backgrounds. And that's a model that is widely appreciated to be somewhat inefficient and also potentially increase risks to people. So this is our starting point. And where we want to move to is a healthcare system which is more personalized, more individualized, in which decisions about treatment are guided by much more specific, personalized information, so that we can choose the right treatment at the right time for the right person. Now, to get to that fantastic state, we've got a lot of work to do. And in particular, the first thing we need to do is we need to really get stuck into understanding what are the specific drivers or determinants of trajectories in the diverse Singapore population. So the first stage is going to be quite an intensive phase of fundamental research. Fundamental research to understand what are the specific characteristics, for example, that make somebody react well or poorly to a particular drug, or that make them susceptible to a particular set of diseases or health risks. So we're going to start with a comprehensive program of research that is being led by PRECISE to unravel these exposures and trajectories. But in parallel with that, we're going to need to start working out how once we do make discoveries, how we can bring them to clinic. And that means in parallel, we've got to start working out what might be the enablers and blockers to deployment of these novel technologies and novel ideas, so that we can, when we are ready, scale them up quickly, efficiently, and well. And there are going to be a range of enablers, one of which I'm sure Anka will talk to, which is the use of data, digital platforms, to bring together complex data from multiple sources, multiple different types of data. Because it's not just going to be genetics that informs risk, it's also going to be a person's behaviors and choices, their environmental exposures, which will be captured through a wide range of different parameters. So we're at the beginning of a journey that I think is going to take 5 to 10 years, where we go from ground zero, old school, to a future where we have more precision. We're going to go from predominantly research to increasing implementation. And as we go from research to implementation, we're going to do a lot of upscaling of technology, and in particular our data-driven strategies for healthcare.
Great, thank you.
Good? Is that okay to kickstart things?
Wonderful, thanks. Yeah, Prof. Ankur? Yeah.
So very well said, Professor Chambers. I really like your framing of how it needs to be grounded in research, this aspect of personalized precision medicine, and how then we scale it up for a larger population. But to just to make things a bit controversial, right? I'm amazed at the advancements of technology that have personalized so many other aspects of life for individuals today. For example, we can get personalized navigation advice from Google Maps or Apple Maps or other techniques. We can get personalized recommendations for the next movie we should watch on Netflix. We can even get personalized advice on what junk we should buy next on some e-commerce website, even though we may not need it, right? But here we are, almost 2,000 years plus of medicine being practiced, right, from early days of herbal Ayurvedic medicine to modern day medicine, and yet we are unable to personalize digital therapies for individuals. And I say that not to sound grandiose or not to sound that I've given up on it, but I say this to encourage people to start thinking about this aspect of personal data and the availability of plethora of information about them, and how by collecting some of that, individuals and those responsible for their health can put them to better use in the service of their wellness and their health outside of the hospital. So that would be my starting point for what next for the average consumer on the street in Singapore.
Great, thanks. Prof. Ankur, in the light of what you just said, right? So can you please elaborate a bit on what are the existing gaps that you see that need to be addressed in order to for all the fantastic technology be adopted in the precision health space?
I think first, yes.
Yeah. Maybe I can go first, and I'll keep it very precise. I think the 2 or 3 main gaps that any health system across the world needs to optimize is, the first one is what we call as the care coordination gap, right? The amount of data or the amount of information about your health and well-being that is available to the physician, right, at the point of care is significantly large, because they are caring for you and they are prescribing medicine and they are doing a bunch of tests on you, right? But today, a lot of that information and data is locked in electronic medical records and is not interoperable, is not generally available for broader consumption outside. So there is this huge data integration problem in some sense, right? That's one. The second one is with rapid availability of self-monitoring devices, the Internet of Things, right? Wearables, trackers, continuous glucose monitors, weight scales, right? There is new information being generated by the minute about our bodies, and the fact that we have a biome, and then we have a phenome, which is how we behave in society, right? If we can combine these 2 things in a systematic way, in a meaningful way, then that closing that gap will help us a lot as well, right? The third gap, which is an extremely critical gap that medicine has just started understanding, is what we call as the social determinants of health gap, right? Health is not about, the devices we wear or the tests we get taken, right? But our backgrounds, our income status, what we eat, how are we able to afford food or not afford the right type of food and nutrition, right? So again, combining social determinants of health with our data logged in electronic medical records with the data that is coming from Internet of Things all together, makes up a more clearer picture. And then when you merge the information that is available from our genome and our other modalities, really start helping shape who we are and how we can personalize healthcare eventually.
Cool. So the basically the key is the data integration, and also is break down the silos of all the data that now is in different reside in different entities or different modalities. Yeah, and then come all together to generate the actionable insight, right? Yeah.
That's great.
So Prof. John, would you like to comment on this?
I think Anka's made some excellent points. And what I particularly like is that he's emphasized that a lot of the information we can use for precision doesn't come from what are the traditional conventional sources. Medicine traditionally measures things in blood samples, measures your blood pressure, takes an ECG, and those are tried and tested tools. But we're now going to have a range of new opportunities for characterizing a person's behaviors and risks based upon these, how you pick up your hand phone every morning as an indicator of your mental well-being, and how you communicate with other people. All these digital and Internet of Things type data sources. And so one of the challenges, the tremendous challenge ahead, is how we bring these multiplicity of data feeds together in an informative way. I also very much like the way Anka talked about the importance of data democratization. Why are we a little bit behind the curve in terms of advanced healthcare? As you say, we've got sat navs, but we don't have navigation tools for health. And some of that is because these data streams have been kept behind, for very good reasons, have been kept behind brick walls for privacy reasons. But if there are tremendous potential opportunities to advance human knowledge and healthcare for people and communities by having better insight into what those data might tell us. The other big transition that we need to make is all very well coming up with better tools and better algorithms. But if our doctors and healthcare system don't know how to use them, and if our communities and patients don't understand, don't trust, and don't engage with them, then you can have all the precision tools you like in the world, but you'll go nowhere. So I think another big hurdle we need to overcome is about how we redefine health systems in a way that healthcare providers and healthcare users understand and engage in. So it's very much sort of the human-centric component of the precision medicine program.
Cool. Yeah.
Jasmine, if I may respond to that last point that Professor Chambers has made, and I missed on that, but it's a hugely important point of how we train the next generation of clinicians and physicians to accept all the data and the information that patients are carrying with them. But more importantly, there is a very nice article that recently came out, written by one of the CEOs of a large health plan in the United States, and in that article, he has talked about the the innovation plane and the real world plane of healthcare, and the fact that they don't sometimes meet at all, even in the same health system, is a huge disservice to how much change that can be brought about in precision medicine, particularly in personalized precision medicine, because the pace of innovation is often faster, but when it is business as usual, where you are just looking at the profits and the bottom line, and this may not be a problem in Singapore, but is a larger problem in the rest of the world, where especially in the United States, where we have a fee-for-service model for healthcare. So that's another gap that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I totally agree that it is critical to for the organization to align the objectives and interests, right, in order to foster the precision medicine or health. Yeah. So continue on this discussion, right? So we identify the gaps, right? And then so what can we do, right? So we as a government-backed venture capital firm, and also each of you are from represent different organizations, right? We all play a role in the ecosystem. So can we brainstorm that how can we engage the different stakeholders to be part of this precision health infrastructure to drive the adoption for the solutions?
Who do you want to talk to that first?
Up to you. Yeah, maybe Prof. John first.
Well, look, I think it's there are tremendous. There isn't a single answer to that. The journey has multiple moving parts, all the way from the fundamental discoveries that need to be made, the data generation, the analytics that generate the initial insights, the experimental models that need to get done to develop the new therapeutics. At one extreme end, fundamental research, through to what we've just been talking about in the last discussion point around the human side of educating people, communicating with people, the public messaging side. There's all the bits in between that need sorting out. So I think there are a huge range of ways in which industry and venture capital can contribute. Where are the sweet spots that are going to be particularly rewarding, either both from the community's perspective, but potentially also from the industry partners' perspective? I'm sure Ankur will talk about it more, but it's data, and computational tools. I think that's tremendously important. There's as one side, and the other big component is going to be how do we if we develop a new diagnostic that's suitable for precision medicine, stratifies people better, informs clinicians better about what drug or intervention to choose, then we need affordable ways of bringing those new diagnostics to clinic. It still costs hundreds of dollars to do whole genome sequencing. It still costs hundreds of dollars to do measurements of many proteins and so forth. And it's slow and expensive, and we need if we're going to scale it up and apply it to Singapore, the region, globally, then we need scalable, technology-driven solutions.
Yeah, great. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I think from my observation of Singapore and the rest of the world, I must first commend you Singaporeans to be extremely fortunate to have an ecosystem where you have very good programs in place already that encourage people towards health awareness. For example, the National Step Challenge or the Eat Shop Healthy program, right? These are national programs that are being run at this national scale, and the rest of the world is somewhat behind the curve on some of these things. So there is that availability of tools and awareness that that may not be equal all over the world. Having said that, what can Singapore do to make this even better, to reach the dream of personalized medicine? And I have a couple of ideas that I can share around this. One would be, so for any successful country, right, there are sort of three ingredients or things that you need. The first one is, as Professor Chambers already said, data, right? Availability and openness of that data. Of course, the cost of bringing that data, into a system that can then analyze that data is also important. Hence, cost of genome sequencing and getting that data into the proper place for analytics is important. The second thing is availability of some form of a national cloud infrastructure that is regulated, yet makes research and innovation very open within that community, where you can integrate these types of data sources. You can bring a lot of universities and collaborators and external partners to participate in a safe and secure way without compromising the privacy and security of the patients or the individuals, right? That's very important. And so some nations have taken up a national cloud infrastructure initiative where these type of things can start happening, right? And the third one is really investing in trustworthy, fair, and unbiased, data analytic practices, right? So coming out with not just regulation, but supporting fundamental research that helps make artificial intelligence more trustworthy, such that people can understand what an AI model is doing, how it is being regulated, is it based on fair and unbiased data or not, is something that I feel is going to be very critical. Otherwise, all the data that we gather, all the infrastructure we put in place, if people don't trust that prediction models at the end of the day, it will come to nothing.
Thanks. Yeah. As you know, right, a large portion of our audience is from the corporate, and so does startups. So I'm just want to ask your view on will the startup corporate collaboration will play an important role in this journey?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, yes. So
just for the benefit for our audience, right? What are the methods or the engagement models you think that our corporate can work with the startup to work towards this goal?
Ankur, do you want to take that first?
So it's a little tricky for me to answer in terms of because I have done I've recently for the last 5 years I spun out a company out of the University of Washington, and then spent significant amount of time straddling between academia and entrepreneurship and industry, right? And so for me, it has just been an amazing journey of being in the boardrooms with venture capitalists and investors, and then shifting gears and being in rooms with customers and enterprises who are looking to put my solutions into production at scale. And so having crossed that barrier from publishing a peer-reviewed research paper in a top journal to actually implementing that in a live system where it goes into production, has been an amazing journey. And I don't think it would have been possible without the support of so many, entities that came to help, from national, granting agencies that believed in that research early on and supported the students and everything that went into that innovation pipeline, all the way to, ready availability of capital and infrastructure that partners provided to help shape up the company and support it. And then the customers who actually believed in the vision and the product and then helped, evangelize that and structure it within their organizations, all of it. So corporates really play a hugely important role in making sure that this ecosystem of from innovation to repeatable product really goes well, right? And so, if there is this public-private partnership of sorts, and in Singapore, there are really great examples of that. I mean, the SGInnovate and the stuff that you guys are doing is just amazing. There is also A-Star, that's doing, fundamental work. There is AISG that's doing great work. So, shout out to all of these things. And then you have great universities like NUS and others. So it's there, it's getting there, right? But it cannot be done without corporate sponsorship, mentoring and leadership coming through in order to support these type of initiatives.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your personal experience. What an amazing story. Yeah. Prof. John, will you like to comment?
So the question was.
Yeah. So
no, it's all right. The question was, is the commercial sector able to contribute meaningfully to this and capitalize from the exercise? And the answer is absolutely yes. We recognise this within the National Precision Medicine Programme, and we have a strong business development team to actively reach out to industry to promote these kind of partnerships. Some of the partnerships we can anticipate we have a need for. For example, data generation around specific molecular assays, say whole genome sequencing. We need to work with a provider who understands how to do it at scale. There aren't many of those in the world. Analytic platforms. We need to work with best-in-class commercially to bring cloud compute and bioinformatic solutions. So each stage in the precision medicine journey, we know that to achieve best success, we need to work with the best in the world, and the best in the world is often from a commercial background. We identify our own needs and actively reach out in a targeted way. But who knows what kind of serendipitous events are going to occur, or new angles that industry may have. Say, guys, girls, have you thought about this? So we're also very much open to sort of industry proposed partnerships and collaborations. The MPM program has an industry outreach program with a regularly scheduled meeting with industry partners. Becomes a forum for these discussions, so that industry can find out what we are doing, what we identify as our needs. But it's a dialogue, and we also enjoy hearing what opportunities exist out there that we should be thinking about. And I think fundamentally that kind of open dialogue between industry and the precision medicine program is going to be critical to our success. We certainly cannot do it all on our own. We don't want to do it on our own. If this is going to be a success and impactful at national and international scale, it's going to need people with vision, passion, and ability to commercialize it and take it to the next level.
Cool. Yeah. Very, very interesting sharing. So without disclosing any confidential information, will you be able to share a couple of the examples, like what kind of interesting idea that you actually benefit from the industry and actually very helpful for your research?
I can give some guiding principles, yes.
Yeah.
So let's start with one of the one level, some of the simplest questions, like how can we develop a test that is that improves prediction or diagnosis of a disease? To do that, our approach, one of our foundational approaches, is that we have a set of samples that we collected from people, some of whom remained healthy, but some of whom developed a condition or a trait or a disease. And so one of the things we want to do is systematically explore what are the gene variants or the proteins or the gene expression profiles or the metabolite profiles that are different between the people who did well and the people who ran into problems. That represents a range of molecular assays: proteomics, transcriptomics, metabolomics, which comes in multiple flavors in its own right, to DNA methylation profiling, to DNA sequence profiling. So we anticipate that we're going to need to work with industry partners who have got world-leading expertise in each of those molecular assay domains. If we think about whole genome sequencing, well, the two established market leaders are Illumina and BGI. And we will be working with them at some point for sure. There are also tremendous opportunities around microRNA, gene expression, and so forth that we look forward to working with industry to advance. So that's just on the data generation through assays side. When we think about what else are we going to want to fold in? Well, we need to fold in informatics. And that includes machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence. So on the one hand, we need good computational platforms to collate the data, curate it and collate it. And that might use a cloud platform as well as a software embedded in it that brings data together. Then there are tremendous opportunities then for organizations, commercial or academic, who've got interesting angles around machine learning and AI to come and interrogate that and create new hypotheses and models around it. We're only limited by our imagination in this space. Okay, so that's two illustrations of the ways in which we can readily see we can work with pharma, with industry, and that's just the beginning of the journey. Never mind how we then translate it into clinic and the tools that are needed for communication, for miniaturization, for to enable delivery of these modalities at scale to people and communities.
I see. Thanks. Yeah. So next, I'm going to ask our speakers specific questions. So first one is for Prof. John. So I understand that this year that Singapore has launched phase 2 of the National Precision Program. Yeah. Can you please share some details with us, and what does it mean for the general population? Yeah.
That's great. So that's a nice, easy question. Thank you. So the National Precision Medicine Program is a phenomenal and deeply impressive exercise, which was started by Tai Shong and Patrick Tan as my colleagues and to some extent mentors. It's crafted with a 10-year vision, divided into 3 phases. The first phase of which was the first 3 years, and which has now come to conclude, is now complete. Phase 1 was designed as doing foundational work and proof of principle work. We showed proof of principle that Singapore could pull together the different institutions, the different researchers, and that a creative ecosystem could come together to address the precision medicine problem. And to show that Singapore was able to generate high quality data on appreciable numbers of samples that could be informative. So proof of principle that it was achievable. But not necessarily with great expectations that there'd be tremendous discoveries or insights generated in phase 1, proof of principle phase. Phase 2 is a different beast. Phase 2 is going to be the discovery phase. So phase 2, the primary ambition is to generate rich information about about people in Singapore, so that we can understand what are patterns of normal variation, but also what might be the signatures, molecular, digital, etc. What might be the signatures that inform health and disease? And that will then lead us to a state where we have understanding. These set of gene variants are causal for cancers, heart disease, bowel disease, and so forth. That these set of phenotypic markers, digital markers, help inform understanding about trajectories towards diabetes or obesity or cardiovascular disease. It will inform our risk modeling. And having got our risk modeling sorted out, that's when we then move into phase 3, which is scale up and roll out, where we'd hope to take the key insights, the top 10, 20 insights, and roll them into effective implementation in healthcare settings. We don't know what that's going to look like yet, because we don't know what the fundamental discoveries are going to be. It's highly likely that there'll be a tremendous amount that comes out of the genome. And so we have an expectation that we'll be rolling out, for example, what's called polygenic risk scores or genome sequencing, so that we can use that to choose drugs more wisely, to choose screening strategies more wisely. But precisely what phase 3 will involve, we will know more in a couple of years' time. So three phases of precision medicine: pilot, discovery, scale up. Phase 2 is new. We've been running for about 6 months. It's a very exciting time.
I see. Yeah. So you mentioned that genomic data will pretty much be carry a lot of weight in the risk modeling, right? Yeah. How about other data like lifestyle data, environmental influence? Yeah. So on and so forth.
I hope I didn't overemphasize genomics. That was unintentional. We absolutely believe genetics is important, but its importance varies by disease. If you, at one end of life, particularly neonates, children, then genetic disturbances are very important. But at the other end of life, then actually health and disease is much more determined by your behavioral choices and your environmental exposures that you've had over the previous decades of life. If you think about the general man in the street, it's said that for most chronic diseases, about 30% is determined by genetic factors, but the majority of a person's risk is determined by their behavioral choices and the environments they live in. So we absolutely perceive that whilst genomics is an important backbone to risk assessment and diagnosis, it's not going to be the cure-all. It's not going to be the single solution. Most of the diseases we're dealing with that are important and common are what's called multifactorial. They're determined by some of this, some of that. And we need to bring all of those. This is the point about bringing all of those data sources together, so that we can maximize our understanding of what's determining the variability, the variance explained. And so it's absolutely essential that we get a much better handle upon people's behaviors and environments and how they relate to risk. So that is a critically important part of our work, yes.
Cool, very exciting. Yeah. So next I will move to Prof. Anke. So I would like to ask the first question is, so moving from your academia role, being an entrepreneur, right? Can you share with us that what have been some of the challenges you are facing? And how do you view the role of startups for the Singaporean in the Singaporean precision health ecosystem?
So, precision health in itself is an aspirational area that is still developing, right? It's still evolving. So efforts like Precise that Professor Chambers is outlining is a good way of thinking about, how startups can also start engaging and working towards precision health, right? But having said that, there is a lot of opportunity for startup companies and entrepreneurs in the space of precision medicine. But we must distinguish between precision medicine and precision health in some way, right? So that's the first distinction. So as a startup, you really need to evaluate whether you are in the precision medicine space or you are in this precision health space. Okay, so I want to make that clarification very clear. The set of challenges in the precision medicine space are very different from the set of challenges in the precision health space. Okay, in the precision medicine space, the infrastructure required for large-scale genome sequencing, for drug discovery, for working with pharmaceuticals and life sciences companies, right, becomes extremely critical in the first phase of the startup. Then in the second phase of the startup, ensuring that the discoveries and the insights that your startup is responsible for bringing to market have to be adopted by the clinician community, right? That's the second hurdle that most startups face when they actually take a product or take a solution and try to influence clinicians to accept that solution, right? That's the long pole. So it's easy sometimes to get a pilot, but to actually get a long-term multi-year contract from a customer that is going to accept your clinical solution can often become, problematic, right? The third is regulation, right? So in particular, in the US, we have FDA, in other countries, there are equivalent bodies that require any software solution now also to be, certified. So there is a whole software as a medical device component coming in for AI and analytics as well. So having, as a startup founder or an entrepreneur, knowing where you are on each of these three things, infrastructure, clinician acceptance, and regulation, is very helpful as you think about starting your company or doing something. That's precision medicine, right? Then there is precision health, which is now if you're thinking of the holistic well-being of an individual, if you're thinking of nutrition, if you're thinking of Internet of Things, if you're thinking about overall health and what can the startup ecosystem do to provide solutions for healthcare, right? That has its own different set of challenges. So infrastructure certainly remains a challenge. The acceptance by clinicians is sometimes a challenge, sometimes not that big of a challenge. But as long as your solution can show efficiency at scale, and I'm talking national level scales, right? People will start to adopt some of that, and it is quite interesting to see the impact of some of these things when you start doing precision health, right? The biggest challenge that I see in precision health, which is the area that I'm most interested in, is personalization of that precision health. So there is the precision health where you can, you can give a targeted therapy of some nature, and therapy doesn't have to be a drug. It can be behavioral as well, right? So there is that. But when you start trying to personalize and start trying to understand the individual journeys of members in a population, is where things start to get really, really exciting in terms of precision health or precision, personalized precision health, right? And I see a lot of opportunity in that space, and looking forward to working on some of these solutions myself.
Cool. Yeah. So speaking of the innovation drive the precision health or medicine evolution, right? I believe that AI and ML has been playing a critical role. Yeah. Can you shed some light on this and share some application examples?
Sure, happy to share some of this. So AI and machine learning has been, very helpful in 3 different ways when it comes to precision health. And we actually talked about this in this panel very early on in the beginning of the hour at the top, when we started. The first one is using AI and machine learning to really identify the high risk, medium risk, low risk individuals at a national scale, right? There just aren't enough clinicians in any country to risk stratify every individual patient by looking at all the data that they can get. So it's simply, a computer is better at risk stratification, and it is now generally accepted that a predictive model that can help risk stratification of large populations for various risks of, name your favorite disease, right? From COPD to CKD to diabetes to, heart failure to everything else, right? Now this identification is step number 1. The second one is being able to stratify the population into, cohesive groups so that you can devise the intervention for that population in a meaningful way, right? So AI and machine learning has done that very successfully in non-healthcare domains. For example, as I said earlier, Netflix is a great example where, you don't even realize, by watching 3 movies that are of similar nature, suddenly a new genre pops up in front of you where you said, because you like this movie, these are the 5 other movies you may like, right? So suddenly, Netflix content, management team has figured out that Jasmine has a propensity for certain types of movies, and quickly they stratify Jasmine into a genre that they create personalized for Jasmine. And Professor Chambers has his own five genres that he may be interested in, and Ankur has, I have my own, right? So this stratification is extremely valuable that AI is starting to do at scale after the identification process, right? And the third piece where AI is already becoming or starting to become a game changer in precision health is ability to engage, ability to nudge, ability to get people to change their behaviors, right? So when we talk about personalized precision medicine, we really talk about how to do identification well at scale, how to do stratification well at scale, and then how to do this, engagement and personalization at scale.
Cool. Yeah. I really hope one day, as you say, right, the AI and ML can help, can have a better application and adoption in the precision health sector, same as in other aspect of our society, right? Yeah. So I think we have a couple of questions at the Q&A. So can you see it? Would you like to take them? Yeah, okay. So I will read out the first question. What are some of the low-hanging fruit of precision medicine that can be deployed to the community with high impact and benefit to the community? What are the reasons they are not deployed?
Okay, it seems such a simple question, but it's surprisingly complex. There are certainly some areas that seem to be low-hanging fruit. For example, I'll name pharmacogenetics as well. So in pharmacogenetics, the issue is that people with certain genetic patterns of genetic variation, they can react poorly to some drugs. And so screening people for their DNA sequence prior to prescribing can be used to reduce adverse events in clinical practice. So that seems a very good low-hanging fruit. There's clear benefit to be had. What are the obstacles? Why are we not doing it routinely? Well, it's for a range of reasons. It can be because there isn't a funding mechanism that enables that pre-prescription testing to be done. So not every pharmacogenetic influence gets recognized by the funders as reimbursable. It can be an infrastructure problem that the ability to test for that particular genetic variant is uncertain. There may not be a genetic lab that's got the assay set up. It can be a data integration problem. It may be that it's possible to do the test, but the test gets done in a different hospital or a different healthcare system, and then the result doesn't come into your own electronic healthcare record system. So it can be a data infrastructure problem. It can be a problem with the knowledge and experience of the clinicians. They don't know or don't trust that this test is useful or important. And there will be other blocks on the way as well. So it's not there's a single thing that can be fixed. It's actually there's a chain of events. And actually at the moment we're in a position where there are multiple weaknesses along that chain. So one of our tasks in phase 2 of the precision medicine program is actually to do 5 to 8, we call them implementation pilots, where we're choosing our 5 to 8 low-hanging fruits. It's at that level, it's a great question. And we're saying we're going to put up pilot projects to say, how can we deliver on this low-hanging fruit in real world settings? And tasking teams of people to come together to identify the hurdles and break them down. And I think that's really those are going to be tremendously informative. The program work is led by Taishan. It's going to be tremendously informative because if you can get it right in 3 or 4 conditions, 3 or 4 use cases, then it'll inform the next 400. So there are low-hanging fruits. The path to their implementation has got multiple roadblocks. We have an approach which includes strong industry collaborations to advance the cause through these implementation pilots, which will be very important.
Thank you very much, Prof. John. Yeah. So now we are coming to the end of the event. So I thank you very much for tuning in. So now, and thank you very much for the sharing. It was my great pleasure to moderate this session. So now I will pass the time back to Wei Ming. Wei Ming, please.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, I think it was a great discussion with the speakers. Definitely hope our audience here have managed to learn a little bit more about precision health today, and definitely with the work at Precise, I'm sure that Singapore is on a trajectory in achieving greater things in the field. So that being said, I would just like to represent SGInnovate to thank all the attendees who have stayed with us until now. And I would just like to say a big thank you to both our speakers, Prof. John and Ankur, for the webinar. It was really a great sharing by everyone. Once again to the attendees, do keep a lookout to our post-event mail, which will contain a recording of this session, and do reach out to us at events@sginnovate.com If you'd like to connect with any of our speakers or just to have a chat with us for collaboration opportunities, do remember to also give us your post-event feedback when you exit the webinar or through the post-event mail as well. With that, this is Wei Min signing out from this webinar. I hope everyone will have a great day ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy. Hope to have you again on our next webinar session. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Anka.
Thank you. Bye.